Hello my friends of Cosmic Agency, I am Gosha and today's video will be quite important and quite complex perhaps to some of you, as it will go into the metaphysical explanations behind the existence of the reptilians and all these other, problems that seem to be oppressing the humans on Earth. So please watch it carefully until the end, and then at the end I will meet you for some few final comments. Define reptile consciousness, please. What do you want to know? The degree of their connection to the source, their mentality, and why they are the way they are. What defines them and why? Reptile. That's very extensive. Define what part of the reptile, please. Regressive. Those who have the need, or so it seems, to cultivate their culture based on others. Okay, and now depth level of the topic. Please define. 1. Disney. 2. Conspiracy level. 3. Stellar concept. 4. Deeper cosmic concept. 3 and then 4. 3 is wasting time, since 4 contains 3, but 3 does not contain 4. There is no such thing as regressive reptilian consciousness. There is no such a thing. It is true that if you think about it, it exists. But why is that? Because if everything exists, its duality exists. If everything exists, then it is because nothing exists. Everything is an idea, a concept. Whose? Of those who see it, understand and observe it. The regressives have no connection to the source, or only deferred one, as the cause of something else, someone else. Earth is exactly as it should be. Reptiles, Maitre, cabal, masons, delinquents, vaccines, reptilian royalty, wars, archons who eat lush, hatmen, mothmen, batmen. Everything is an egregor, a reflection of human consciousness in the case of Earth, reflection of the creators, of how they are and how they are inside, where their attention is, of their fear. Everything can be summed up in that, fear. Whatever they fear has a lot of their attention and with great deadly emotion. They manifested by the collective agreements they have between themselves as to how their reality should be, of what is possible and what is not. The regressives, reptiles, Maitre, and archons, lower astral entities that feed on fear, are not creators. They are created. They are projections from the community of the human psyche. Without connection to the source, they cannot create anything. They are not the source, no more than a street post, creation of someone else. From a collective and individual mind. Soul is source, not only a connection to. So they don't create anything. They just take what is already there and twist it at their convenience. And their convenience is what most generates fear, because it is what they consume. Why do they consume fear, called by many lush? What is that lush? It is the strong and constant attention of a consciousness and of low-frequency energy, creative attention. That is why they eat it. It nourishes them, because they are egregores. Without fearful attention, they vanish. They cannot exist. That is why they dissolve when someone with consciousness, with soul, with connection to the source faces them. They cannot exist like this. So love and acceptance are toxic to them. There are no victims here. We have already tired of saying it. So that's why we always say the world is as it should be. We cannot fix the world because it is not ours to fix. It is theirs, the humans. We can only be mentors for those who listen. But in the end, that world is not only the creation of humans, it is the humans themselves. They are that. There is no use taking them to another place, to another planet, because they take the problems with them, because they are the problems. You cannot focus on something and give it your attention, whatever it is, without it being manifested. Only a few are creating everything, those with soul. The rest are just their egregores, their shadows, manifestations of what they fear at night. There are no reptiles other than those created by humans themselves. No one is their predators. They depredate themselves, and I mean personally, each one of them. They walk through the rainy streets with broken shoes, resentful of the rich man with his new latest model white truck that drives through a puddle and bathes them. Miserable they feel, being gods. The one with the broken shoes exists. The rich man in the truck doesn't. It is his creation, because he has put his attention to perpetuate his feeling of misery and of having no value. If he had his attention elsewhere, the one in the latest model white truck would be just potential energy, meaningless, worthless. Well, he gives it to himself, the one with the broken shoes, all wet. He could very well be dancing in the rain, but he prefers to feel miserable. He doesn't see that the man in the latest model white truck, if he is real, could be in terrible debt, under stress in a horrible job, and has taken that truck out on credit to mitigate his own feeling of invalidity, of uselessness, of existential inconsistency, drowning that in a purchase, putting his own personal value in something external to him. Broken shoes one is free. It's just what you want to experience, the attitude how life is taken, the interpretation given to things. This on a personal level, but it transcends onto a global level. There is nothing to save there. They are how they want to be, and consciously, and with planning that it will be so from before. Reptile consciousness, materialization and manifestation of their deepest fears, no more. Negative etheric spiders, archons and entities at night, ideas in their heads, no more. They have created everything, and in the same way, they can dissolve everything. What about the regressives in 5D? They are the same. Creation of 5D fear of all races. Reflection of their fears. Broken shoes one is a god. The white truck one does not exist. As the universe is integration, there cannot be any evil as a separate entity. Evil does not exist. Even in the face of people who just lost someone to evil people, and also millionaires with syringes and wars. Those are ideas. Evil cannot exist. only within duality, but it is a choice. But in truth, is there really a way out of this, Swaruu? As long as we are in 3D, 5D, which basically runs on duality and contrast? There is no evil, okay, but only from within the above 5D realms and points of focus. From within here, the Monopoly game still goes on. If there was a way out, it would not be a 3D, 5D anymore. We would ascend straight into 7D and above. So we are basically trying to solve something that is a very nature of this realm anyway. That is correct. Welcome to 9D thinking. Not even 7D, 9D. Duality is understood, but transcended. A life, a lifespan. Someone is born, grown, lives, goes down, and dies. Feels like a lot of time, a lifespan. Do not make yourself a vibrational match to things you do not want. The mugger on the street. It starts, progresses, and finishes as a lifespan. Moving away, looking at everything from a more expanded point of view, an incarnation on Earth is only another situation you became a vibrational match to. A blink of an eye, a nanosecond for the universe. And you are that universe. No one is a victim from the more expanded point of view. And from below, from there, everyone is a victim. So what are you going to do about it? Understand who you are and what you want, and with that, change your perception of reality. Thanks, Swaruu. Now I have a big question, although you have already explained it above. The question was, what fear have you had and what trauma, all you, to have attracted Orion Wars and the reptiles in your reality long before reptiles appeared on Earth, escaping from the Federation? Because reptiles did not appear only on Earth. In fact, you have fought with them for millennia yourselves, long before humans and 3D appeared on the scene. Everything is a more expanded part of the same thing that happens on Earth. In 5D, everything manifests in the same way. The concept of regressive reptiles on Earth is very human, reflection of themselves. It is true that there is the same here, but it obeys the same process. Collective fear manifesting everything. A cosmic egregor. Okay, but it can be just human if they were the same reptiles that the Federation was chasing before humans have become humans. Just thinking to fit the pieces together. From the point of view of the human collective, of the average mass, there is no federation. Everything is in their heads. So they are the ones who manifest the regressives for themselves. And where did they get the idea? The humans, all those with mind and soul consciousness, were Lyrians, Lyrian races. So they take their ideas with them to where they go. It is like saying that the concept of reptiles is only concentrated in England because of David Icke. But there it is also in other countries now. It is the same thing, same reason, but on another level and expanded. Exactly. So we can't say human creation, it is a co-creation of all races, human and non-human, because we are all extraterrestrial. That is the problem. It is co-creation of all races. But there is also a bubble that is purely human creation, and it is what is called 3D problems. And the fact that they are mental creation does not mean that they are not material. Well, that's the definition of an egregor, materialization of a fear, of an idea. And that is seen in the mechanics of the manifestation material I gave before. With enough attention, you create the harmonics of a frequency that will sustain the creation of nodes with the exact shape of these harmonics, and thus matter and its behavior are generated as a mirror of the creative idea of a being with a consciousness soul, and which is a holographic fragment of Source. And the flow direction of that attention is gravity. But those are ideas, and wars are fought for ideas. There is no duality, there is no such thing. They are just ideas, ideas imposed by one or the other point of view. Everything is love and integration. But not even that, because you cannot even define love and integration without generating the opposite concept. So it just is the Source, indefinable, eternal. Okay. And have you solved your inner world as the ET races outside to avoid attracting this type of reptiles in your reality, not to manifest them? And if not, and I think you did not, why are they still there? They are still in existence because they are still given attention, because they are still feared. The moment you stop fearing them, the moment fear is overcome, you grow. That's when you grow internally and realize that there is no such thing as duality, that everything is part of the same, and the concept of something and not of that something is only based on other ideas. So that state of consciousness is the same as being in 7D, or better yet, in 9D, where there are no longer those reptiles. They cannot exist, since everything there tends towards integration, acceptance, progress, and love. So there can be no evil as such at high densities. Because it is accepted, it is not fought. It is integrated, and it is known that it is not necessary. No resistance to the concept. Therefore, evil as such tends to disappear, not being compatible with those densities. There are no regressive reptiles there. It is known, but they are transcended. They are inconsequential. I see. So here, around Earth, who are you blocking out then? There are no reptilians to block. We are fighting your shadows. I feel the reptiles are out there for all of us. Shadows or not, they are there. And all of us, not just humans, must heal our shadows. Because there are no humans. It's all extraterrestrials. And all humans carry the Orion Wars memories and traumas. So the shadow is of all of us. Yes, our shadows, because we all are one people. Be it that we have green skin, gray skin born in Orion or in the Pleiades, we are one people. We manifested that as much as you did there. But now, what we have at hand is what you are doing there to manifest your problems, reptilians and so on. Here, we have come to understand what is going on. We do not manifest more of what we do not want. What we are talking about is the problem of Earth. The same problem permeates outside Earth, but it is mostly under control. The problem of Earth is still their responsibility, much more because it is isolated, no longer permeating. But that's because of 3D installment. It all worsened after that. 3D is in your minds, and in your mind alone. The moon matrix is very weak now and collapsing. People on Earth are now manifesting their world, what they see, what they live. That what you see as unfair is of their own making. The only way for them to get out of this is to wake up to the knowledge that they are creating it all. And I mean all, as even the greatest problems will go in a heartbeat if they understood what is really going on. And even physical assistance from the outside is useless when the humans keep throwing their ghosts at us. They must take responsibility for what they create, but they must understand why. I understand. And why these fears of the ancient Illyrians in 5D have manifested themselves in the form of regressive reptiles and not in the form of, monstrous bears. Why this form? Because I understand that there were positive reptilian races. Because like in humans, the fear of a reptile is evident since there is even a cellular memory of them being dangerous. An aura of fear is generated around the reptile, and from there it grows. 1 million thousand of years ago with fear of snakes is enough to generate everything else, the very concept of regressive reptile races. If it's of any use, I've never seen a reptile. Only people who claim to have seen them, stories, and people with a more human appearance but with a reptilian soul and behavior. But something like a Kingu, I have never seen them. An Alpha Draco, yes, I have seen it, but it just so happens that they are positive, so what's going on here? Curious, yes, I understand. And going back to fears, what have you been afraid of 1,000 years ago when they appeared and the Illyrians had to flee in the Great Expansion times? And second question, if you don't fight them, what are all the swords for if it's only by solving inner fears? Swords and missiles and plasma weapons are useless. Everything is fought at the level of consciousness. And it is not to combat, it is to transcend the concept. But even so, you are not going to get rid of combat ships, because it has also been said that you cannot just be love and peace and hippies. It is because the level of consciousness of the 5D collective has not yet reached that non-reptilian state. Below, at the terrestrial level, or here, at the objective life level. By reality perception agreements, there are reptiles, as below there are crazy millionaires with syringes. So that is why it is said to be just a game. The world, being in 3D, is a game from the point of view of 5D or higher. But everything is ideas, concepts, prejudices, and attachments. Okay, I like that you say this because it is exactly what I wanted to hear. Slightly draw attention away from humans as if it's just their miserable world, when this is our co-creation among all races, and that you also have the same type of problems. Same type of problem, but those on Earth are yours. Lethal viruses, wars, it is your mentality, reflection of your fear, of your egregores, individually and collectively alike. Hence, the concept of collective hysterias as well. But you have also said, we are not going to get rid of weapons because the level of consciousness of the 5D collective has not yet reached that non-reptilian state. Well, here, it will be even more difficult if you can't even do it in 5D. Consciousness transcends everything and is everything. The density where your physical body is located is only an excuse not to progress mentally. Asks Robert. So we could also extrapolate the reptilian problem to the subject of AI and all other problems, right? Whether it's reptiles or a problem with a PC driver, everything is reflected fear. I am not saying that problems should be ignored, but don't be afraid of them, and that is to face them. Some here come to Earth with a magnificent fleet, amazing, of great power. If it had been used alone, it would have made the problem grow more. It only takes awareness, reasoning, mind, knowing what you have to do and what not. Never leave your sword at home. You never know when you may need it. To confront Coco and open it to eat it. You decide which Coco you want to encounter. And what have you been afraid of 1,000 years ago when reptiles appeared and the Illyrians had to flee in the Great Expansion? I'm sorry, I still don't understand that part. Where did they actually appear from, the reptiles? Why? If Illyrians lived in peace and were not afraid, in theory. They are manifestations of their own fears. It is said that they came from another density, from another place in another galaxy. But I see it in a simpler way. They manifested among all as a collective Lyrian egregor. But what fears? Fear of being eaten, exploited into the unknown. It feeds on itself, growing exponentially when attention is paid to it. It is fed. That is the lush, not something like mysterious energy emanating from living things in terror. It is just creative attention focused on the self-destructive. But there was still no concept of being eaten back then. They lived in peace. By lowering frequency, by entertaining a low-frequency self-destructive idea or concept, the concept of being eaten by reptilian beings is created for not knowing how to control your fears out of ignorance. This especially on Earth now, as there isn't much wisdom. So, did it just occur to them to be eaten, entering low frequency? I speak of Lyrians in Million Years' Wars. I want to get into the root of this. It could have been something as simple as that, yes. It is enough that someone comes up with a concept for other people to entertain that and make it grow. In this universe, the law of mirrors rules. You can't search for anything without eventually finding it. Universal law. So, the deepest root is still there, not on Earth, because the real humans that make up the Earth are 1,000 years old, extraterrestrials, and they carry subconscious memories from other places, from other lives, all the way back to those millennial wars. That's right, yes. And before they were demons and fallen angels, today they are reptiles, Illuminati, Masons, and millionaires with syringes. But it is the same, manifested fear, wherever you pay attention, and is complemented by others exponentially. You create whatever you are paying attention to. But fear of what? How do we eliminate it if we don't know what we are afraid of? That is in the unconscious many times. Definition of repressed fears. So the importance of shadow work and dealing with problems comes in. Do not blind yourself to them. Do not avoid seeing evil, but know that it is there and take it as the basis for what you do not want, using duality in your favor, not against you. This applies to both Earth and 5D here. Knowing what we don't want, we consciously manifest the opposite, what we do want. Thank you. That's amazing. Okay, I just have a doubt in this area. What is the line between becoming informed, AI, reptiles, and bringing that into your existence? Because you said it's enough for one person to have an idea for it to start to grow to become an egregor. And another thing I don't understand. 99% of the population doesn't know about them, the reptiles, yet they are spiritually unawakened ones. And those of us who are awakened and spiritually positive have attracted knowledge about reptiles and AI, etc. I don't understand that. I wasn't afraid of anything, yet now I know about them. My mom is afraid of everything, and there are no reptiles in her reality. They do not exist for her. For the majority of the population, suffering and turmoil come to be because of other reasons. There is no objective truth, only ideas and agreements. So it is the reptiles for you and for David Icke, archons and night crawlers in the night for others, dirty politicians for still the rest. Each person chooses what to fear, who to blame. Reptilians are not in the reality of most people. They do not exist for them. Even people who have night visitations and don't know anything about entities also attribute that to other causes, chemical alterations in their brains, whatever. I am not saying not to see and not to be informed about everything. What I am saying is that you must watch the attitude you have towards those things or problems. Watch them and control your fear. Yes, I understand. Does getting informed about these things, black goo, AI, etc., increases their existence? I guess it depends if it creates fear in you or not, right? Because I'm understanding it's the fear energy that feeds them, not merely knowing they are there. And even knowing how they got there in the first place diminishes their existence. Depends on your attitude towards them. And yes, in general, with no mental control of your frequency of thought, what it means for you, it does create more of that. So what about us talking about the reptiles, etc.? Aren't we seeding it as well more? And cabal? Where do we inform and where does it become seeding? Yes, we are. We are doing both. But at the same time, we must help, as you stated. Because you are in an agreement to understand things, that world, the same way the average does. So even though you are awakened, you still perceive things roughly the same way. Green is still green, you dress like them, whatever. So even those soldiers who do not know anything about entities and die terrorized are still feeding the negative entities that the collective has created. You only need one person to have an idea. Fear of serpents, for example, to create a huge manifestation that becomes the great expansion back in the day, full of countless regressive reptilian species. One mind creates an idea. A fear, as it concentrates manifestation power, others will fear the same thing, and others as well. And soon you have a big problem. Everyone will have their entities. Before it was demons, today it is reptilians. Same fear, another face. So where does the informing of the cabal and of its lies end, and where does the seeding of that reality to make it stronger begin? It makes people see reality with the same focus and the same agreements. Knowing this, and knowing that we are also working with average perception's reality here, doing nothing, not helping, is a choice. and can be respected in the same way as helping. What I am saying, and I am stating, is that all the problems of Earth are the creation of fear and ideas in the minds of humans, be it with inspiration coming from outside Earth as well. The 3D matrix also serves as a container for this. I did not say you should not tell them, and I did not say you should not help them. What I mean is that it is your choice. Not telling them about the problem would be your choice and a valid approach. But as I said, the attitude towards the problem is what counts here, not the problem in itself. You can tell them what is going on, but that is where your responsibility finishes. Remember the horse. You can take it to the river. You can take a bucket of water to it, but you cannot make it drink. They are the horse. Your responsibility ends exactly wherever you want it to end, no more. Asks Robert. Thank you. Going back to human fears that can be dangerous for you, so we could be a danger to you, Gosha and I, if you took us up to 5D? A lot of your fears will dissipate, because an effective way to dissolve some fears, depending on their nature, is to get away from whatever triggers them. But some other personal ones do survive the extraction, because it is part of you, of what defines you. Comments Robert. So we have to get away from all that negative garbage that is in all the media, and focus on other positive things. Yes, exactly, but when you can't do anything about it. But if those fears come closer to you, become something more tangible, what you should do is face it. So, using the virus for example, if people, the gods, creators, humans' collective soul didn't pay any attention to that virus thing, it would have dissipated already. But the egregor is already created. And if Bill Gates comes knocking on your door with 2 syringes, then yes, defend yourself with the sword. The archons are egregors of the human mind. I am not saying they don't exist as something that interferes with humans. What I am saying is that they created it. Therefore, they can also dissolve it. Everything is part of the source. Everything is included. But reptiles and archons themselves are creations of beings with souls. By themselves, they cannot create anything. Reptiles do not create anything. They only distort what is already there. But that is human, or as a consequence of collective or individual human attention. Reptiles are not more creators than a street pole, which is also part of the source, but it is creation, not creator. Their behavior, that of the reptiles and the archons, obey a mental program of how they should behave, like a computer program. If this, then the other. But it is a reflection of the human mind. Humans are the creators of their reality, reptiles and everything. That's why they want more human attention, more fear, because they have no connection to the source, because they have no soul. They are soulless. That is why the regressive ETs are said to desire human souls. Sure, of course they want them, because it is what generates them, nurtures them, and without human souls, they are nothing. They fade into the ether, into potential energy. Why is it that it is the energy of fear that they all feed on? Why not on excitement or something like that? Why that specific emotion, fear? They do not feed on fear per se. They feed off your creative attention. Fear only concentrates your attention because you enter survival mode. That's why they create so many negative things. If you could have the same concentration on things you want, you could bring them to you at equal strength. Okay, fear concentrates your attention. But so does excitement, for example, no? Yes, so use it to your advantage. But why don't they feed on excitement? Because excitement is usually positively oriented. That feeds what you want, asks Robert. And can reptiles jump to 5D? They would come through someone else, like using humans with souls. Once again, they want you for that, so they use you as puppets. But a very important question to clarify. Reptiles all have no soul, even the positive ones? No, there are many high-density, loving, progressive reptile races. Alpha Dracos, for example. Those are creators. I'm only talking about reptiles and archons. And archons is like any monster that scares in any shape or no shape. It is more scary. Those are egregores. There are also soulless humans. So, positive reptiles have souls and are not egregores. Just because a reptile is a reptile, it doesn't mean they are egregor. But yes, there is a reptile-shaped egregor, as there are egregors of a candy lollipop shape. Why not? That's what I mean. That is important to clarify. Not all reptiles are egregores. What I have seen is that the most common egregor on Earth is that of an archon without a definite shape, then that of a reptile. Leaving aside the egregors of fears such as crime, taxes, wars, and epidemics. Reptiles' egregor are just ideas of the human mind. They are not even a race. They are, however, imagined by humans. So apart from the reptile egregor, there is a reptilian race in general, yes? Countless reptile races. But I speak of the terrestrial egregor of manipulative reptiles, and about the egregor of space-invasive reptiles for the Federation, for people in 5D. Asks Robert. The non-egregor reptiles are loving and positive. Yes, they exist. And you can also make a positive egregor. There are many. But apart from the terrestrial egregor of manipulating reptiles, are there reptilian races that really exist here and are not egregors? And also being oppressive? I see it as a super important point to understand. Yes, but they also happen to be egregor of multiple races here. It's just that as soon as an individual puts fear aside, stops having that kind of things in their life, they become invincible, positive. And that is to ascend to another higher density, because that is how you live there. It is the definition of existing in another higher density, not the 3D and low 5D. Which regressive reptilian race is not the egregor? Or are all negative ones egregors? Deepest level, everything is an egregor. Be positive or negative, they are just ideas. It depends on who sees it. Everything is a manifestation of consciousness. That is the material reality in the entire universe. It does not matter. It would be necessary to define what is bad and what is good, positive, regressive. From which point of view? Everything is a creation of consciousness. Therefore, everything is egregor. Okay, but step down of that level, a bit lower, please, from our level. Okay. As we said at the beginning, there is level 2 from which to understand the subject, so-called conspiracy level. There are invasive Kingu with Dracos manipulating them. And in 5D, there are other races, but here mostly the positive Alpha Dracos do their part to resolve the problem by manipulating the reptiles of the Earth. And in 5D, there are many regressive reptilian races that don't dare to get close to Federation-guarded perimeters. Clarifying your other point, positive reptiles have souls. Regressive reptiles have no soul and are egregores of positive minds. Aha! But here we step into what you have said above. Who says what is regressive and what is not? How do you define it? That's right. And everything gets more messy this way. Regressive is one who consumes energy from others. That tends to self-destruction. A soulless being. Okay. Now, what about regressive reptiles that become positive? Do they suddenly acquire souls? Because I know this happens. You said that many of them change sides. Yes, this is another matter. The acquisition of a soul. Why soul or consciousness is acquired. An example of this is the phenomenon of walk-ins. Also, the point comes in at which an egregor gains enough strength to acquire his own consciousness. It begins to be self-sustained, sentient. Why? As everything, this is how species manifest themselves. We are just a manifested idea anyway. If a computer can be self-conscious, why not an egregor? The principal point here is that you created all down there, and you manifest negative things faster than positive things, because negative things have all your attention and focus, and positive things are dispersed. You want a lemon lollipop, then the next minute you want a pineapple one, then a coconut one, then back to the lemon one. The universe does not know what you want, as you change what you want so much. If you focus on what you really want, you would have the same manifestation power you have with the negative things you fear. This is not New Age nonsense. It is how things work. I made an experiment on myself the other night. I watched one of the visitation videos with a lot of scary images of things and shadows creeping up on me in the darkness. I had not been thinking about those things before that night, and I had a visitation, a horrible negative shadow, wanting to produce fear in me. All I had to do was terminate my experiment, turning myself mentally into a ball of white light, and the thing was gone. My point is, a visitation? Here? Really? In a starship in orbit? In a 5D bubble? I made it. I brought it onto myself. And so do all the humans bring onto themselves their night and day terrors. As they are no different from me. I don't care if they are a very real robber, something material and tangible like a scary tiger, or an illness, or falling off a ladder, or war, whatever. It is all the product of fear. Fear not, and nothing can touch you. And as a collective as well. You do not need to fall into the perception of the people. Yet, you are still subject to agreements, perceptual agreements on how you will see things while you are there on Earth. But you can alter reality, and I am not talking about your individual reality bubble. I mean all the expanded reality with your mind. How? Learning how everything works, being concentrated on what you want, like a laser beam. Not all diffused all the time, only concentrating on the things you fear. On those you do concentrate, don't you? Start little. Do not worry about things that are not under your control. That is a body response to anticipate a way out of problems in order to survive. That is fear again. Know thyself first to be able to know what you want. Not what you don't want, what you want. I was left with nothing. I was evicted from my house. Yes, but I've got a comfy cardboard box and the bridge to shelter myself. It is your attitude towards what is going on, what matters. Your focus. Know thyself. Do shadow work and be responsible for your thoughts, as those are the ones that create. And that is how you fix the world. Well, this was the video. How did you like it? When we first opened the subject with Robert and with Swaruu, it was supposed to be about the reptilian races, about how they operate, how they function, about their mind, you know. But then actually the topic went into quite metaphysical areas where we were able to understand the root of the so-called reptilian problem on Earth, and not only on Earth, as you could see from that video. Okay, so first what I would like to say is that you have to remember that Swaruu is always looking at almost every phenomenon from so many different perspectives and levels. As we all are, she is very multi-dimensional, and she's never just looking at something or at the concept from just one angle. Every situation can be examined from all these different angles. And like she says in the beginning, she's asking us, what level are you interested? Disney, conspiranoic level, and then stellar level, and then the most expanded cosmic level there is. And you know, the most expanded cosmic level is actually her favorite one to discuss, and that's where we developed the subject. So you just have to keep this in mind, that of course from the more mundane level there are reptilians and dracos and all that, but here we are going to the very root, to the metaphysical beginning of it all, in order to solve this problem at its core, at its very essence. And I'm going to give you with that an example. Imagine a person who keeps attracting abusive relationships to themselves, right? And that person, he or she, doesn't matter, doesn't get treated very well. And of course, here we can be looking at who is guilty, right? So when we look at one level of this problem, of course, we'll be seeing that most obviously on the mundane level, the guilty person is the one who is abusing that first person. That will be the first idea that comes to our minds. So we try to go and help that person disconnect from that abuser. But then that person goes on to the next relationship, apparently free from the abuser, but strangely and mysteriously, that person is again attracting the similar type of relationship, because there is something deeper happening here on that person's subconscious mind that makes this person manifest these sorts of treatments toward himself or herself. So now, to seriously and to truly and authentically free that person and liberate that person from those abusive situations and from that person being a victim, is to enable that person the deeper understanding of why this person is creating the situation in the first place. We are going to the root of that person's subconscious mind, so that this person can unravel the mystery of their own life, and they can start to redesign and recreate their life again with the full creative power, understanding their own shadows. So basically that's what Swaruu is doing here. To be blaming the reptiles and blaming the cabal would be to stay on that more superficial level of trying to help the humanity, but she's trying to help us in a much deeper and more profound metaphysical way, so that we can fully understand the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is simply that there are really, truly no reptiles in existence. And why is that? Because, well, the regressive reptiles, those soulless ones, because simply they cannot have any existence on its own, as they do not have any source connection. They are not source, they don't have creative power. They cannot be existing on its own. They can only be a result and sub-product of another being with consciousness, with a creative power. So they are only existent within the range of our own manifestations, of our own creativity, and within our own field. And they have arisen based on, like she's explaining, all these different shadows and fears that have been pushed out and taken the form. So in that sense, there are no reptiles. And here she is admitting, yes, in 5D they have also been in existence, but the 5D races have principally, mostly solved the problem, and because they have understood the mechanism of how they generate these creatures. So it's here, mostly in 3D, where the humans are still not in full understanding, not in any understanding at all, actually, on a massive level, of how this works and how they themselves are the creators of all their problems. So Swaruu has mentioned this over and over again, that there's only so much they can do from the outside, offering their assistance, the Federation races and other races and TAYGETANs, if we as a race, individually and collectively, will keep producing and generating those shadows, which basically that's what all these cabals and reptiles are. This is our problem to solve, and they cannot eradicate that problem from the outside, just as in my beginning example, removing the abuser from the relationship is not going to solve the situation permanently if the subconscious levels of our minds, of that person's mind, will not be addressed first. So in order to liberate ourselves completely is first to understand what causes the problem, and what causes the problem is us. We collectively have created and produced this problem, and we have triggered that problem into the existence in a way, and now we can also dissolve it. And among other things, which actually will be explained and understood in the next video, that's one of the reasons why actually we are here, in order to perfect our manifestation power, in order to take control of what we project and manifest, because we are not going to be allowed into the interstellar phase of our society existence if we are still not able to control our manifestations, if we are still not even close to understanding that this is how it works, and that the root of all these problems are our minds. Yes, it doesn't mean that those reptilians and archons and all that don't have, relatively speaking, their existence and form. That's how those egregores work. They take on a specific form. So they do appear to have a tangible way of existing and tangible way of influencing us. But let's go deeper, layer after layer, to the root of this problem. And again, the root is us. And as hard as it sounds, if we don't face it, and if we don't face it fast enough, we might get to the point collectively where things may not look so good for us as a result. That's one possibility. As was explained in this video, the 3D matrix from the moon, the one that is being projected here, is very weak right now and collapsing. And even if it breaks completely, they told us that it's us, the humans, who will still maintain the 3D concept of life, because it doesn't matter what goes on in the moon and with those computers and the 3D installments. It's actually mostly the human mind that maintains the whole reality within the 3D range. So even if those suppressors from the moon stop working, our Earth will still continue to be maintained in a 3D level, because it is maintained this way by the collective thought. Another thing that I got from this video, because I wasn't sure, and I asked her about this: how much should we inform the people, and when does it become a seeding of the ideas? Because she said that, it's just one person with the idea and somehow the concept gets created, and this is how it becomes a reality in a way. So I did ask, like you could see from the video, how much is it informing people and how much is it seeding the ideas? And as she explained here, it's not about informing people or not informing, it's about them having a certain attitude towards that situation or towards that problem. It's not about the problem in itself, it's about what attitude and what emotion it creates in people, because that's later what creates the reality. It's not being confronted with the problem itself, with the situation itself, this is how it is, but then your thoughts and your attitudes and your focus, a certain focus around that subject will create that more or not. So I definitely am for informing, and then people having the choice of continuing to create their reality around that subject or not. And it's also giving you the opportunity of contrast, of being able to define yourself, of knowing where you want to be and where you do not want to be, what timeline you want to align yourself with and which one you don't. It's the way for you to choose with more clarity what you want, because this in the end is what this is about. It's about focus and clear, sharp, laser point focus and knowing what you want. We are too dispersed in this world. We don't want things more than we want things. We know specifically what we don't want, but what we do want, it's kind of dispersed. So here Swaruu again is calling us to be more focused, more concentrated on what we want, and confronting the fears, and our shadow work is very important. So slowly we will stop projecting collectively those all these oppressors in our society. And even if we do, we'll be able to have a different understanding towards them. And once we have a different understanding of the whole concept of how this works, how it actually gets produced and created, this is where we transcend it. And once we transcend it, there is no more need for that concept in our reality anymore. And this is where we ascend. So this is how I understood it. I'm sure you'll have your own ideas, conclusions, and revelations about the subject. So thank you very much. The next video, let me just tell you, will be one of the most important videos I have ever published, and it might be quite shocking to some of you, and for sure will be quite controversial. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you this, and I don't even know if it was even mentioned by anyone previously in the extraterrestrial scene, so it might be quite new. So let's see. Thank you very much for watching this one, and until the next.